yeah, like it's kind of starts off as you said, as it kind of means to go on, where it's showing like, you know, there is no inherent ultimately good or ultimately evil. They're kind of both, you know, slightly skewed in one way from the perfect that they're supposed to be.
Hello, and welcome to episode 26 of the Audio Book Club podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Good Omens. Here with me is Michael and Johnny. We don't have Jason this time. He's preoccupied with, I don't know, weddings or something? I'm not sure. Just want to say hello, guys? Or?
What's up?
Yeah, hello.
Yes, so we're going to be, as I said, we're going to be doing Good Omens. It's by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. It's their first, well, is it their only sort of collaboration that they did?
I believe so, yeah. It's the only collaboration, and it's Neil Gaiman's first book.
That's Neil Gaiman's
But
first
he was
book, yeah.
He was writing comics before that.
So, an interesting partnership, I would say, but yeah, we can talk about that later, I suppose. A quick thing why I picked this book, just I was recommended this a long time ago. I can't remember even who by now, but I think I picked it up I didn't pick up the book, sorry, but I watched the show when it came out on Amazon there a few years ago, and I liked it. I thought, yeah, maybe now I'll finally pick up the book. I liked the general idea of it, the sort of, you know, demon and angel thing that was going on, and you know, the whole good versus evil type plot thing. And I'd heard that it had got like really good reviews as a book, and so I thought it would be a good one for us to go over. But let's tear on it, shall we? Tear it apart. So yeah, that's why I picked the book. Outside of the TV show, I didn't really know anything about it. The only other like Neil Gaiman book I'd read was on this podcast. Was that the Viking one? What was that called again?
Norse mythology.
The Norse mythology one. And I'd read a bit of Terry Pratchett. My uncle had given me some of like the Discworld books, but I'd never really. I don't think I got through the full one or anything. But have either of you ever? I know you're a big Gaiman fan, Michael, but what about Terry Pratchett? Have you ever read any of his books?
Yeah, I've done the first 8 of the Discworld series, which sounds like a big dent, but I think there's like over 40 there or some in Discworld books. So as far as Discworld goes, I've only like started it, which sounds crazy, like having done 8 books. Yeah. But yeah, I've done the first 8.
Yeah, 40 books. Man was a machine.
Yeah.
Johnny, have you any Pratchett or any other Gaiman books for other than Norse mythology?
No, this is the second for me as well after Norse mythology. I mean, I've listened to Norse mythology twice, and like Neil Gaiman was the one that narrates that, and just the way he kind of like goes on about it, he's quite enthusiastic about those kind of subjects. So I'm kind of drawn, and his interests seem to be overlapping with mine. So yeah, I was excited to do another bit of his works and probably cover more in the future.
Yeah, so yeah, that's one of the reasons I picked it, because I thought it would be a good fit and people would enjoy it because, you know, we've enjoyed their other works and such, but now I'm not so sure. But that could just be the negative side of me, the paranoid guy poking out. So yeah, I don't think we did a plot guess, did we, last time? I didn't write down anything.
I don't think so.
I don't know why. I think we ran on pretty long and just just wanted to finish, as I recall.
I think we've just forgot that we play that game sometimes.
Yeah, it's not a regular game, not a regular feature, just occasionally.
Yeah, just every now and then.
Yeah. Right, so quick summary of the book before we do reviews and everything. So the plot follows a bunch, like a big cast of characters. Well, not really big cast of characters, but a very diverse cast of characters. We have angels and demons, and the Antichrist is in there, but we also have some like 10-year-olds, a mental Scottish fella, and some American woman who like has a book on prophecies and stuff, so it kind of jumps all around. But the interesting part for me is the angels and demon stuff. So we have this demon called Crowley and this angel Aziraphale, and they sort of live on Earth and like blend in with humans, and they really like living amongst the humans, which is kind of weird for angels and demons, and they kind of get funny looks from their colleagues effectively. And the Antichrist is about to be born, and they don't want the Antichrist to be born because it means that the world's going to end, and they really like the world, so they set about trying to stop the Antichrist from destroying the Earth. And yeah, that's sort of a broad overview. Anything you guys want to mention about that, like other things, like maybe about the Witchfinders? Or
No, I think that sums it up.
no, yeah. So like, what did you think overall of the book? If you just want to give us a general spoiler-free summary.
Overall, yeah, just high level. First on story side of things, I thought it was really good. I really thought the wackiness was just the right level. I think, for example, I remember mentioning this when we talked about Red Dwarf. I thought Red Dwarf was also, good, but I thought at times it was a bit too wacky, whereas I thought this had the right balance. And the wackiness was explained away by the fact that most of it was to do with either being an angel or a demon and having, magic powers. I just think that was a good concept and made the wackiness work. Yeah, I just kind of liked the kind of obviously the topic here is like Armageddon beginning. That's the main premise of the book. Yet this book felt very just light-hearted and like just easy going almost, which I liked as well. The only real issue I had with the book was, and this solved itself. I also watched the first season of the TV show, which correlates with the book, but I felt the POV switching at times, especially because the chapters are arranged as days of the week. So like I think like you have like the first few days of the week are like 45-minute chapters, and then it's like Saturday's the big day, and it's like a 6-hour chapter listening time. But like there's no like split, like it just kind of switches to two different characters who are at a completely different setting. So at first, yeah, like I said, before I started watching the show and like knew the actors' voices, because obviously it was the cast doing it, I didn't actually really know. It took me a wee while before I would understand that this is a different scene.
Yeah.
But I feel like then from watching the show alongside it really helped me then. Like I could tell this from this character's voice where he was, because I knew in the show where they were. So that kind of helped along. But that would be my only criticism of the kind of just, it was a little bit of that. And we've had obviously this before with other books. And I feel like this is the case in an audiobook. It's kind of like you can easily miss the switch. I feel like if you read the book, you maybe have more time to consider what's going on. But yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I agree with the Armageddon and it was still lighthearted, which it seems like it shouldn't be possible. Like, it should be all doom and gloom because Armageddon's coming, but it's still really, really funny and stuff. And then I 100% agree about the POV thing. I always find that really jarring, where there's no like obvious break between POVs, especially when it's only the one narrator. Well, there's a narrator, but then she doesn't really say, now we're looking at this character. It just sort of happens. Yeah. But yeah, do you know what the thing is as well, Johnny? I find it really hard to gauge, like to anticipate what you're gonna guess or what you're gonna think of a book, because I thought you were gonna really hate this book when I finished it.
We had this on the other podcast or the other episode.
Yeah. I know. I was convinced you were gonna hate it, but I'm pleasantly surprised that you liked it. Yeah, so that's cool. Michael, what did you think?
Yeah, so I was very happy with this pick because I have read a good few Gaiman books, and I've read a good few Pratchett ones as well, and I think they're both absolute geniuses. I think they're fantastic, phenomenal writers. And then started this book and sort of got to know what it was about, because I never actually read about the premises or anything before I start something. I just kind of go in blind. And as I learned about the premise, this whole apocalypse happening and everything, and with the zaniness of Pratchett and kind of the heart and the folklore plot kind of random mismatch of Gaiman like mixed together. I was really excited to commence this, and I think there is a lot of good in this book. I think it is some of the characters are really great. I love everything to do with Crowley and Aziraphale. I was always hooked onto their scenes. There were some parts though, some characters and switches where I wasn't as engaged. Yeah. For some reason, they just they didn't grab me in the same way. I quite liked Adam and his scenes of like all the random conspiracy theories. I thought they were very funny. I like the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I thought they had their good moments, and we actually have a Discworld tie-in with them. The character of Death is actually from the Discworld universe as well.
Oh, is it the same? Is it the same character? I like that.
I think canonically it is the same. It is supposed to be the same character, but I could be wrong on that. But I'm pretty sure that it is. So overall, I like the book, but I wasn't as blown away as I thought I was going to be with the book. I agree with you guys about the POV jumping, and I nearly hate saying that because it's like it's a thing we always repeat, and I don't want it to be like we're always bagging on about the same things over and over again. But it always does seem to be an issue, but quick POV switches, and it's kind of not earmarked as much, where in a book you have your time to see, and usually it's signposted by like there's either a space or there's like a wee star or there's something to indicate that the scene is changing, whereas in an audiobook it's kind of all you can really do is like take a breath and then continue. I think it works well with like a book like Game of Thrones, where he announces, before each chapter, this is Bran's chapter, or this is Catelyn's chapter. I think in this, sometimes I was getting lost in what was happening, and I had to, and I don't do this often with audiobooks, but I had to keep going back sometimes because I missed what that scene was about. So
I did that as well.
Yeah, that's kind of said to me that this book was hard to follow as an audiobook at times, and I sort of, as Jonathan said, he was helped by the show. I can't imagine that was the case, because I kind of thought that myself, should I watch the show, because it will help me understand this a bit better. I wish I had done that, but I didn't do that, unfortunately. But overall, I still did think it was a very good book. I wasn't as blown away with it as I thought I would have been with it being a Pratchett and Gaiman book. I thought it was a bit of a mess at times, even. Yeah. That seems like a harsh word to use, but
no, I think that's the right word to use for sure.
Yeah. Like, I think I read that Gaiman was very influenced by Hitchhikers going into this, that he like wrote a Douglas Adams biography or something, so, and he felt very inspired to write the book.
That explains Jason's review.
All right, okay. So I can see that he really went there with the zaniness and everything. For some reason, even though it's almost equally as chaotic as Hitchhikers, it felt a bit less cohesive to me. But I know that is probably an unpopular opinion, because this is a very beloved book. But parts of it felt like a bit of a mess for me, and I don't know if that's just a personal thing where I didn't engage with some POVs. But overall, I did think it was a really good book. I thought, like, you have the odd line of Pratchett. I think it was mostly him with these kind of witticisms, these observations. Just knowing both their writings, I think a lot of that would have been Pratchett than Gaiman. But I thought, it had very, very funny moments and very insightful moments. And the way it handled themes, I thought it handled the theme of theology and things like that. I thought it handled it really well. Pratchett is an atheist. I'm not really sure what Gaiman's views are. I get the impression he's kind of agnostic, but academically interested in religion. Yeah. And I thought with them both having that kind of point of view, you couldn't tell that reading the book, or listening to the book. They didn't really, it wasn't like projecting or vomiting their own opinions or anything. It was just, I thought it was very well handled, and they give a lot of respect to the religious themes, but also put them into question, rightfully so as well. I
think they do and poke fun at them at the same time.
Yeah. It was good balance, I thought. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But overall, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I was on the thing about the book versus TV show. I was wondering at one point, was this production that we listened to of the book, was it because it has the most of the same cast? Was it like written or structured in a way to mimic the TV show, and the actual book is not as disjointed, or like, you know, it's more obvious when you're switching and stuff. I meant to look that up, but I forgot. If any listener knows, write in. There we go, look, plugged it.
I think, Stephen, it would have been written like that because Pratchett does write like that, to be honest. And I always think, as much as I said I like Pratchett, I've listened to his books and read some of his books, and I prefer reading his books because of that.
Yeah.
I think they're hard to follow as audiobooks.
Right. Good to know. And then, yeah, some of the characters for me, like you were saying, were a bit hard to enjoy. I think you mentioned liking Adam's POVs, and I sort of did, but then the others, you know, when he's doing the conspiracy stuff and you know, looking up about Tibet and all that crack, I really enjoyed that. But then a lot of the other stuff with what's the gang's name again? The them, yeah. Well, a lot of their stuff, I was like, just show me more Crowley and Aziraphale. And I'm part of me wonders, is it because of like the performances by Tennant and Michael Sheen? But I don't think so. I just think the Angels and Demons stuff is more, you know, gripping for me.
Yeah.
And then because at the same time, the performance was really good, like Arthur Darvill and the guy who played Shadwell. But the Witchfinder stuff was interesting to me as well, more than the them. So, I don't know. Yeah, I sort of agree with both you guys on your points. I don't really have anything to add. I do have Jason's here, so let me just get it out and we can go over it. So, Jason thought, he found it to be like a book of two parts, is the way he words it. So, the first part was with like David Tennant and Michael Sheen was amazing. You know, so the build up with the Antichrist being born, and then the 11 years after where they're sort of looking after him, or well, they think they are. He thought that was really good, but when it switched to the kids, it fell flat, which is sort of the same thing I was saying, and it never really recovered from that point. And that's the notes that he's given me. He gave me a score as well, but we'll go over that later. So yeah, I was joking when I said about the hitchhikers thing, by the way, for him, but I just like tying that back to him every so often. So yeah, see this is interesting because I thought that he really liked it because he absolutely stormed through this book, which is funny because part of the reason why I thought Johnny wouldn't like it was because he finished last. So.
Yeah, that reminds me of like the Mistborn, because you finished that book first, so
did I?
That's why I thought you did, which is why I thought you would have liked it. But just wanted to touch on the Adam POV thing. That actually, when I looked at like a mix, because I like to read all the reviews and stuff, I read negative and positive reviews. Most of the reviews for this book obviously are very positive. From the few negative ones I read, it did seem that the Adam point of views were a problem for people. Yeah. So it's weird that even though I'm a mixed bag on this book, that I actually like those parts. I wonder, is it people's, you know, it's a pain point for people because he has such a strange view of everything, and it doesn't, like, you know, it's hard to connect with. But yeah, it's interesting. All right, cool. So yeah, for like the full review, I was kind of debating how to do this because it is a bit disjointed at times. I didn't want to just, you know, go through the full book. I was thinking maybe just pick out certain bits that were, you know, really interesting or particularly good. But what do you think? No, I think you should structure it the way you kind of feel would be best, and we'll go with that. So the book sort of opens in the Garden of Eden. Where Crowley, who is a demon, like serpent, but he takes the form of a man, and the angel Aziraphale are kind of watching Adam and Eve, who have just been expelled from the Garden of Eden for eating the apple. You know, that old Bible story. And they sort of talk about like good versus evil, and Crowley sort of talks about how he thinks it's silly for God to have, you know, provided easy temptation and told him not to eat the apple. And if he didn't want them to eat the apple, he should have just placed it like on a mountain, you know, the tree on a mountain somewhere. So he thinks it's a bit strange for God to do that. And Aziraphale sort of
confesses that he's given Adam his flaming sword to keep the two of them safe, which he wasn't supposed to do. And we get this really nice like line where Crowley sort of says, "Wouldn't it be funny if I did the good thing as a demon and you did the bad thing?" And I really like that opening scene because it sort of sets up the one of the big themes of the book, which is good versus evil, and can you truly be one or the other? And then also like destiny versus free will, which is like there's the concept of God's ineffable plan where he's got it all planned out and everything that happens is according to this plan. And it's sort of like, do you really have free will at that point? Because if it's all planned out, then it doesn't matter what you do. So I really like that scene because it sort of sets up that for the rest of the story, and we kind of keep coming back to those sort of themes, particularly when we talk about the various prophecies that are mentioned. And so I think a bunch of characters mention that like prophecies can be interpreted completely differently, and then so they're not really destiny as such, it's sort of up for interpretation. And I really like that aspect of the thing. Then we jump forward like 10,000 years or something like that, and Crowley and Aziraphale are living on Earth. They're sort of blended in with humans, but still doing their quote unquote jobs, where Crowley has to go up and cause mischief, and I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it's like he has to secure souls for Satan or something, by making people do bad things. And Aziraphale's there to, I don't know what he's there to do, actually. He's just there to be a good guy.
Basically the opposite, is it not? They kind of make people choose a good path and get them ready for going to heaven when they die.
I suppose so, but is that ever mentioned? And then the ineffable plan again, surely it's pointless for him to be there, but I don't know. We'll say that for now. But yeah, so they're sort of living on Earth, and Crowley gets summoned to this sort of meeting with some generals of hell or something. I can't remember what they're called, but he's been given a task to deliver the Antichrist to a nunnery where he's supposed the Antichrist is supposed to be swapped with this big American politician's soon to be born baby, so that he's the child is well placed to end the world basically. And he doesn't, and Crowley doesn't really want to do it because he likes living on Earth. Him and Aziraphale, they both really like living there because it's good crack. But he does it anyway, takes the child to the nunnery, but unknown to him, the child is accidentally swapped with a third baby who's just a normal kid. And there's this three-way switch where I think the American child who is Adam is switched with some random English family. And then the Antichrist goes with I don't know, there's some weird switch that goes on. Anyway.
Yeah.
But basically the Antichrist is placed with the wrong family. And Crowley sort of freaks out about this, tells Aziraphale. And they plan to watch over the Antichrist as he grows up to sort of make sure he doesn't turn out too evil, but also that he doesn't turn out too good, because then you've got Christ, I suppose. So then there's sort of loads of funny moments where they're impersonating his babysitter or his gardener and stuff to look over him, and there's a lot of funny parts to that. Eventually they work out that they've been watching over the wrong guy or the wrong child, because Crowley gets word from hell that a hellhound, which is a big monster dog, is supposed to show up on the child's 11th birthday, and that's sort of to signal the start of the apocalypse. So they're sort of watching out on his birthday, but the dog never appears, so they realise that they've made a mistake. And this is where we first get introduced to Adam, I think, who is the Antichrist, and he's living in some English village somewhere, and this dog, and he's got his friends who go by, they're like a gang, they call themselves a gang called the Them, and this dog shows up and sort of, it's supposed to be he gives it a name which gives it its purpose, and he just calls it dog because he just wants it to be a dog. So instead of being a monster beast, it's just a normal dog. It's just quite funny. And then I think that's the first sort of bit I want to touch on. What were your general thoughts on this, like, first bit of the book? Michael, what are you first?
Yeah, I really enjoyed like the opening, as you said, in the Garden of Eden, and I really thought it was a great introduction to the characters and everything. I liked the setup of the theme between like the blurred lines between good and evil, and like who I really love this. This is kind of touched on in future scenes where Aziraphale and Crowley, they kind of argue about who belongs to heaven and who belongs to hell, and they keep getting mixed up. Is that one of yours or is that one of ours?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a funny part of the book that they kept referring back to, and it kind of set up at this point. Again, it's very tactfully done. It's satirizing without being ridiculing, you know. And then I really enjoyed seeing Crowley and Aziraphale on Earth and getting what they're doing there, what their lives are about, and seeing their mundane existence within the Earth, but obviously it's striving towards a greater purpose, and just the fact that they enjoy Earth so much. I thought that was an interesting angle to take with that. And I thought it was a great setup, the way that they did it with the whole mix up of the babies, the 3 blonde babies that caused the mix up. I did think when this was set up that I had an impression that the story was going a different way than I thought it was going, because I thought it was going to center around these 3 children, and that one was going to be good, one was going to be evil, and one was going to be neither, or something like that. So that's kind of where I thought the plot was going with this, but it went a different direction. But yeah, and then we get the introduction with Adam and the dogs and everything. I thought that was very funny as well, Stephen. So yeah, I thought really strong opening for me.
Yeah. I think I sort of wish that the book was more about Crowley and Aziraphale just going about their day rather than the Armageddon stuff. I think it would have been really funny just to have them just doing mundane human stuff. But then there's like this sort of supernatural side comes up every so often. I thought that would be quite funny.
Yeah.
One thing I really wanted to touch on about their sort of mundane lives is that Crowley owns a Bentley. And he keeps it really good. He's had it since since it came off the line or whatever, and for 60 years or however long, and he keeps it in like pristine condition, which is just so strange to all the other demons. And I think I'm going to touch back on it again later, but yeah, I think it's a big symbol of the book is the Bentley, or so I've read up anyway. I didn't really realize it at the time, but after doing some research, I think it's quite well done actually. And then obviously Aziraphale's bookshop. Johnny, what about you? What did you think?
Yeah, like the opening part with the Garden of Eden and all was quite good. It's basically starts off with Crowley. I think isn't it called Crawley or something, because he's like a snake, and then he changes it, or is this in the TV show? But it kind of starts off as you said, as it kind of means to go on, where it's showing there is no inherent ultimately good or ultimately evil. They're kind of both slightly skewed in one way from the perfect that they're supposed to be. Yeah, and also you kind of get obviously their interactions are the best throughout the book, and you get a sense of their camaraderie here already. I think this doesn't really happen in the book, but I think in the show it does a good thing where it kind of goes through time. So you know how it just in the book it just skips basically then forward. I think there might be slight mentions of it, but it's basically in the show you get more like they go through like major points in time and kind of like keep running into each other. Yeah, I was hoping for, I was waiting for that to happen in the book, but it never did. Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, really like that. It's just kind of like a wee opening sequence, but it was quite funny. But to be honest, apart from that, and there's one other part, the book and the show basically are almost exactly in sync. But yeah, moving on then to the whole thing with the Antichrist and all, I really enjoyed the concept of being them being mixed up. I think it was basically Adam he was the Antichrist, and he goes to the third family that came in, and then their baby goes to the politician, and then the politician's baby, and then I think it just says, sure, it doesn't really matter what happened to the third baby or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is quite funny. But yeah, I like that whole like mix-up kind of thing. The hellhound thing, although I like the dog and the whole interaction later on in the book, I don't really understand why they chose that as like the beginning. Like, what is the significance in this naming of the dog? I feel like something else, it could have been a bit more, don't know, dark or something like that, like in terms of what it was, like some kind of ritual or whatever.
Kill somebody or something like that.
Yeah, something just different. Like I just naming a dog just doesn't really seem like. I know they make it out as like he's like, this dog is like they're bonded or whatever, but I don't understand. Like why doesn't like all the demons have a dog? Like why don't they all like get this? I don't know.
It must be something, some kind of piece of scripture or something that's referring to.
Maybe.
I would imagine.
Probably is, yeah. And I think it had to be something like passive that happens as well. So like he can't be, because Adam, he can't have like hurt somebody really bad or something, because then it seems like he's going one way rather than neutral.
Yeah, I think he's brought this up when you were speaking there in the introduction. Like the Adam's point of view, I thought was the hardest to follow, mostly because these weird things were happening to him, and obviously you didn't know why. Well, we knew why at the time, but it was kind of like all the kids around him didn't know why, and it was just kind of like you would just, something weird would be said, or it was describing some weird thing that was happening, and I guess it was supposed to be some weird thing, but I just was like, what just happened? Like I thought Adam's parts were like that the most. Like Adam himself, I thought was quite an unlikable character. I guess that is because he is supposed to be the spawn of Satan.
Yeah,
Christ.
But I don't know, I thought he was just, the way he goes on is quite like boring or something. Like he's just kind of like, fucking, we have to save the world. Like, he doesn't like seem to care about like actually like what he's talking about. Like he's on about like these conspiracies, but he just kind of like says it like, yeah, fucking, the way some conspiracy would say it is like, the government's doing all this. It's like,
I think it was intentional.
Yeah.
I thought that was what was funny about him, because it's a teenager who doesn't care about anything. I thought that was
well,
I think
that was kind of what.
Yeah, I think there was that, but then also like another thing about the book is like, again, going back to that destiny thing. If he is destined to be pure evil, or if like, he can be changed. It's like learned sort of thing. So he's grown up in this mundane household, and his dad's really boring, and so he's really boring, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I kind of find the offhandedness, of the conspiracy theories. I thought it was very funny the way he did that.
I think maybe one bit we haven't talked about yet is like the introduction of Haster, who I thought was quite a good character. I always like the way, like when he talks to Crowley, I always hear, or like, isn't there like whenever someone talks to Crowley, it's like through a radio or something like that. They like get in contact with him, but he's always like just like Crowley, like he's always like like some sinister voice. But I just thought he was such an interesting character, and like again from the TV show, whenever you see them, they're like for some reason they have like frogs on their head or seaweed around them, or like they're supposed to just look like dirty or something, whatever. But he's quite funny in that too. But I thought he was just an interesting character, that he's obviously supposed to be a demon as well, and like has just hate, but he just seems to have this more hate for Crowley because he doesn't hate as much. So I just thought it was quite funny every time he and Crowley were interacting. But yeah, he was introduced in the whole thing with he's the one that gives the baby to Crowley to give to the nunnery or whatever. And as well, I like the way that it was like a nunnery, but like they're the opposite of like nuns. They're like satanic.
Nuns,
So I thought that was quite funny as well. So yeah, I just to sum up, the actual opening setup of all this, I thought was really, really good and quite funny.
Is this the part too where Seraphil and Crowley are drinking together?
Yeah.
Or does that come later?
Yeah, they get drunk.
I thought that was a really funny scene. I thought the drunk acting, because this is a full cast, I don't actually know who was doing it, but I thought it was very good drunk acting, drunk voice acting. And then it's funny at the moment where they're kind of let sober up, and then they instantly can like just sober up straight away. That was like,
yeah, because they can do miracles.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So that again, that just shows like how weird it is, because they like being drunk even though they don't have. Well, They put themselves into that
Yeah.
state of super state of drunkenness, but they don't have to because
Yeah.
I think there's a good one where is it Zerfil does like magic with like a coin and like Crowley's like, you could just do like some miracle or something, but that's no fun. So he wants to like learn to do like proper like sleight of hand magic rather than just use his own magic.
Yeah, so all those sort of interactions, I think it's really funny, and I think it's why the first bit of the book for me is so strong. It's because there's
I would agree.
I like their chemistry as well, where they're sort of like, we don't like each other, but they do. But they go on like they hate each other, or they don't like each other, and they're like acquaintances. But they keep running into each other, and they go for meals and stuff.
It's like lawyers or something. It's like lawyers who they have to oppose each other in a formal setting, but then they're getting lunch together and stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah, so like I really like their relationship. And yeah, another thing, just while we're on the angels and demons, I find it so funny that the angels really want the apocalypse to happen. Like, it just doesn't seem right. They should be trying to prevent it, but they all want it to happen because it's part of God's plan or whatever. And all the demons obviously want it as well for sort of the same reason, but not really. But yeah, I think it's really funny. I'm going to switch over now to the sort of witchfinder stuff. So it kind of jumps around a bit, but one of the sort of, not POV, but kind of people we go about with is this guy called Newton. Is it Newton Pulsifer?
Yeah.
Or Newt.
Yeah.
And he is like he's this guy who since he was a child he wanted to be like a computer programmer or like work with computers in some way, but for some reason everything goes wrong whenever he tries, or like when he tries to do some like wiring and stuff that puts out the electric grid, or computers systems just crash for him for no reason, so he's sort of like hopeless in that way. And he ends up joining this he sees this ad in the paper for the Witchfinder Army, and they're like, they hunt witches, as the name would suggest. And it's made to sound like it's this big army of like loads of people, but it's just one old guy called Mr. Shadwell, and he's sort of like he's a sort of mental Scottish guy. Although I think it says that his accent jumps around a bit, but he's mostly portrayed in the audiobook as Scottish, so I'm gonna go with that. And they sort of, they're hunting for witches. It's basically it's also hinted that it's a whole like a front for Shadwell to collect money. And it also ties back to Zerfil and Crowley because he is employed by both of them independently to like be their network, which is another funny thing. But anyway, these witchfinders, they sort of get involved because there's the town where Adam lives, there's some weird stuff going on, and Newt wants to go investigate, and that sort of kicks him into the whole thing. And then it sort of jumps back a bit too with like his descendant, who I can't remember his name, but it was really funny.
It's like, thou shalt not commit adultery, Pulsifer.
Yeah, that's his full name. Thou shalt not commit adultery is his first name. And that's another thing I really liked about this book, is all the weird names that were given to things. I think that's one of the Hitchhiker sort of inspirations there, was the names. I got a lot of like Hitchhiker's vibes from stuff like that, and then the Nun Order and stuff as well. Or even the Prophecy book. The nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter. Which sort of leads us into this, like, you see Newton's ancestor, this thou shalt not commit adultery Pulsifer, and he's the witchfinder general, and he has found a witch that he's going to burn at the stake. Her name is Agnes Nutter, and she's written this prophecy book, which sort of follows along with us for the rest of the book. And he burns her at the stake, and because she's able to do prophecy, she sort of like causes them to explode, because she had a pile of like gunpowder or something on her person. I can't remember what it was, but her prophecies anyway sort of follow us along, and she's sort of predicted loads and loads of events that are going to happen over the next hundreds of years, but they don't quite add up at times. Like it's going back to that sort of interpretation thing where it can be interpreted one way and so on. So yeah, what did you think about the Witchfinder stuff?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag for me. This is it definitely had its funny moments. I thought Newton was a funny character, and his kind of mishaps and everything it was funny. But I was kind of feeling at this stage it felt a bit meandery to me, and I was wondering where it was going. But I know Pratchett does this where he flips around and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on everywhere. And I was kind of like, oh, just go with it. It'll tie together. And then the introduction of Shadwell, I was starting to feel a little bit jarred here, but I still thought it was it had its moments as well, and I thought it was funny how he was employed by both Crawley and Aziraphale. That highlights again that there's not much difference in the forces of good and evil if they're using the exact same means and everything. I agree with you. The names in this book are great. Agnes Nutter, I believe, is actually based on a real person who was burned for being a witch, as was her ancestor. Yeah, well, I think I read that on Wikipedia, so I'm not 100% sure. But her and the ancestor, I think it was Neil Gaiman, paid homage to both of them. We haven't introduced her yet, but I thought this was a mixed bag of a section for me.
Oh yeah, Alice Nutter, alleged witch. See it now, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
I think it was a bit of a mixed bag for me as well. Like, I think it definitely slowed down a lot, and I was the sort of same opinion with you. If I hadn't seen the TV show first, I would have thought, like, where's this going? Why is this how does this tie in? It does eventually tie in, but yeah, I can see why that would be a bit of a problem. Yeah, Johnny.
Yeah, well, first of all, like Shadwell, I think is a brilliant character. It's hard to know if he's just a crazy old man or is like a smarter than he lets on in turn, because he's now taking both the angel and demons for a ride, and he's like, I think he doesn't even make up like stupid names for like people. He's like, you know, like say like Lieutenant fucking Teapot or something like that. They like say that's whenever he's giving updates, he's basically mix up names.
I think he plays up to it a bit.
Yeah,
the mentalness. Yeah,
but I thought he was quite a hilarious character. I don't understand that. I maybe missed this part, or maybe it's just never explained. But I don't understand what his bit with the finger is. You know, and he uses it as a weapon. he thinks his fingers got like magic powers. But was that ever explained, or does that just?
I can't fully remember, but I think it's when he meets. Is it Crowley? He sort of has a run-in with him. And it's around the time where I think Crowley's being like chased by Haster and the other one. Yeah. No, is it Aziraphale maybe? It's one of the two of them.
It's when the portal's opened or whatever, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the two of them, and he like either touches him or points at him, and whoever it is. Yeah, sorry, it is Aziraphale. It's when Shadwell goes to his bookshop and he's talking to God. Or the Metatron or whatever, and whatever happens, like he points his finger at him or something, and Aziraphale disappears because there's like he steps into the light or something, which teleports him somewhere or whatever, and so Shadwell from then on thinks that he's got a magic finger, so he threatens like different demons with it and stuff.
Yeah, it's really funny. Like when he goes to like it's like the guard at like the. Near the end of the book with the military facility, like he points at him too, like saying, "Oh, don't make me use this finger," and all. I thought he was a hilarious character. He definitely is like a Scottish thing.
Don't make me use this. I'll finger you.
Yeah, he was quite funny. I really, really like the concept of the prophecies, and like Agnes Nutter, I like how the prophecies were like always 100% true, but it was like you had to interpret it, and like you didn't really know what was going to happen and stuff. There's a bit later then when they're like trying to work out, like Newt and the ancestor are trying to like work out like what the next prophecy is or something like that, and it's just like, well, if it's a prophecy, you can just like pick anyone and it will be the right one, which I thought was quite clever and stuff. So yeah, I really like the whole prophecy kind of stuff. I really like Newt as a character. Like he's that kind of guy that can't do anything right, but somehow becomes like a hero almost. Or involved in, maybe he's not the exact hero himself, but he's like involved in the story in a good way.
Mm.
And he kind of uses his ability for good at some stage, the ability to break any electronic that he touches. Again, we'll get on more into that. But I think so this is one of the differences in the cast. He's played by Jack Whitehall in the show, and I'm a big fan of Jack Whitehall, so I really like him in the show. It was unfortunate that he wasn't doing the voice, but to be honest, he does sound quite similar.
Yeah, I was like, because when I first heard him, I was like, that's not Jack Whitehall.
Yeah.
But then as it went on, I was like, is it though?
Yeah.
And then after a while, I realised it was Arthur Darvill, who I know from from Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And he was really good in that, so I was kind of pleasantly surprised.
No, yeah,
he was there.
I didn't even realise it wasn't Jack Whitehall doing the voice until like later then, until it was actually at the very end whenever they read out the cast and it was like who did the voices. It's like, oh, it wasn't Jack Whitehall did him, but maybe Jack Whitehall, I guess, was kind of putting on the voice as well in the show. But yeah, I like the character of Newt. No, yeah, again, I thought this was a solid section of the book, and still, yeah, I was enjoyed the whole Witchfinder stuff. And again, Shadwell had the thing about the nipples or something was the way of identifying if it was a witch, and he keeps asking everybody, how many nipples do you have on them?
How many nipples have you got?
I thought that was just hilarious and just wacky. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and there was another recast. Shadwell was recast as well, because in the show he is played by Chuck from Better Call Saul. I can't remember his name. Michael McKean, is it? Something like that. But in this, I don't know who he's played in the book. But yeah, I wonder why they weren't. Obviously, he's a big Hollywood star, so that's probably why. But like,
availability and stuff possibly.
But yeah. So I sort of skipped over the them, but I'll sort of go back to their bits now. So the them is like a children's gang of like 11-year-olds, and they sort of live around this like village of Tadfield, and they go around causing mischief. Not necessarily like really bad stuff, just like typical kid stuff that they would get up to, but they're sort of like a nuisance to the village or to some of the village residents, and they like spend their time basically doing whatever Adam wants. Adam being the Antichrist. They don't know that yet. He's very persuasive, and he's able to get them to like play his games that he wants to play and whatever. So they do stuff like play. He hears about witches, and they learn about the Spanish Inquisition, so they play Spanish Inquisition for like a while, which was kind of funny. And they hear about like these Tibetan monks that I can't even remember, but something about tunnels all over the earth and stuff. So they play games about that and stuff. So he's sort of like got a really wild imagination, and weird, as Johnny was saying earlier, weird stuff sort of happens to him, and people people don't really know why or even notice that things are happening. But the story with them sort of kicks off when this dog appears, and then a so-called witch appears, and Anathema Device, who is Agnes Nutter's descendant, and that's where that sort of ties in. So she sort of comes to their village, and they have like a random encounter, and it sort of kicks off Adam's imagination even more and gets him thinking about like conspiracy theories and stuff, like the Hollow Earth and stuff about nuclear power plants. And while he's like reading up about this stuff, and there's a bit where he like has a dream and stuff, and weird stuff starts happening all over the world, like the reactor of the power plant goes missing. I think there's stuff about like a flying saucer. I want to say there's something about Atlantis as well, but yeah, all this mad stuff starts happening, and he sort of starts to become like, he sort of starts to go a bit mad, I think, and he has like he starts talking just starts saying really random stuff, and it's like suggesting that he is starting the apocalypse. And yeah, it's sort of a broad summary of them until later on when everybody meets up. But yeah, what did you think about the them and before the sort of climax of the book? Johnny, you can go first this time.
Yeah, I said maybe Adam's parts were the hardest to understand, the POV, but again, this solved itself when I watched the show. Yeah, I don't understand the name the them. It seems quite maybe stupid, just maybe it's because they're children. I don't know if that's ever explained, but
I think it's supposed to just be like they're like sort of outcasts from the other children.
Yeah. Don't they have like
It's like us and them sort of thing.
It's them.
a rivalry with like another set of kids that live there or something?
Gracie Johnson.
Nah, exactly. No, but yeah, I think the weird stuff was quite funny. What I liked about like all the weird stuff that was happening was like it would always be like on the news in the background or something of like a scene that you would hear about it. But it was just like the news presenter would just be so casual, but it was like, yeah, and Atlantis just popped up there, or there was a kraken unleashed in the water, something like that. I just thought it was quite.
The M25 is on fire.
Yeah, I just thought it was quite funny the way it was like the newscaster is just like reading the news but doesn't give a shit about what the actual news is. I think this is good setup for what's going to happen later in terms of that, like in terms of getting the weird stuff happening with Adam. Of course, as the reader, you know that he's the Antichrist and why these weird things are happening, but I think it's good because the other kids don't know at this stage, and even Adam doesn't really understand it himself. I think I had a problem with like how Adam, it almost like he didn't realize, or he was like almost in a trance the whole time, you know, when he's getting more and more like evil. But it was like, does he still not realize that what he's doing here is like bad or whatever? Does he realize that and he just is bad now? Or I just don't really understand, you know, what was going on with him in terms of that, like where he stood. Was he just like...
Yeah, he sort of starts talking about like them controlling the world, and he's going to divide up planet between them all and stuff, and it's a bit like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like it's like we'll
make it dark.
We'll wipe out the human race and we'll make it better or something. It's like, how did he just go from a wee child to this? Maybe it's because like the apocalypse is starting and it's just like his inner demon is coming out during this or whatever. But yeah, it was interesting the way this all was kind of going on at the same time. As like, I did enjoy the other sections with obviously Crowley and Aziraphale, and then even the Witchfinder stuff. I thought it was more interesting than this, but this obviously plays into the main plots later on in the book. So yeah, I'll get more into that in a bit.
I didn't really talk about Anathema much, but I think she doesn't really fit in anywhere else. So she's sort of there in Tadfield because of prophecy. Her ancestors. She has this book, Agnes Nutter's book, which has all the prophecies in it, and I think it specifically mentions her going to this village.
Isn't she looking for him or something? So can she see like the auras and she's like looking for him, but she can't see him or something?
So she goes to this village because of the prophecies, and she's looking for the Antichrist or whatever, but for some reason Adam's like shielded by people who are actively looking for him to like protect the Antichrist sort of.
In the show it's explained quite well is that like his aura is so big that she can't see it. It's like the way people that live in America can't actually see all of America because they're just surrounded by the whole thing. I thought that was quite a good explanation of it. But yeah, like I liked Anathema as a character. I think she was interesting that because like I said, I really enjoyed this stuff with the prophecies, and she was just the one that was mostly trying to figure them out. So she was quite a good character as well.
I like her name as well because I think I read it up. It means like cursed or something. So she is like obviously prophesized to meet the Antichrist, which you could consider to be a curse. And her surname is Device, so it's like she's a plot device. It's really meta joke that I think is quite fun. But yeah, she's sort of there, and she meets up with Newton later on and stuff. They have a shag and all. And Michael, sorry,
I enjoyed them, as I've said. I don't know why. I just thought they added a nice bit of flavour to the book. Thought their bits were more grounded or something, even though with all this weird stuff that's happened to Adam, just the conversation of the them and everything felt more grounded than everything else was happening. So it was a nice refresher, I thought, between all the crazy stuff happening. And I just really liked it, Adam. I thought he was very funny, just being so dull, but so confident in everything he was saying. Like, I can't remember if I'm mixing up parts, but there was one point where one of them, he was telling them how the government was covering up UFOs. And then one of his friends asked, well, why are they covering up? And then he pauses for a while. I was like, because that's what governments do.
Yeah.
I just thought that
it's sort of like a child's answer to something like that, yeah. So that's just, that's how it is, yeah.
But that was very funny. Anathema Device, again, this is another one of the, I was referring to a name that was based on a real person who was burned in the witch trials. I think the actual device part was part of the real person's name as well. I
really?
didn't love her. Yeah, I didn't love her parts. I thought she was just an okay character. I wanted to be back with either the them or back with Aziraphale and Crowley. It felt like her point of view was taking me away from parts that I would have rather been with.
Yeah.
But
I would 100% agree.
yeah, but I enjoyed the conspiracy theories of Adam a lot. I really liked those parts and the weird stuff that was happening all over the world with Atlantis and everything. I do agree with what Jonathan said. Well, he didn't say this, but he was kind of getting at it where there's a shortcut, it feels like, with Adam's arc, where it doesn't fully show him going from good to bad.
Yeah.
It does happen sort of abruptly for me as well. But I would say I was overall positive on that part.
Yeah, I'm just reading here that when Alice Nutter was hanged, there was like some other accused witches, and two of them, actually three. So there was Elizabeth Device, who was hanged along with her, also known as Squinting Lizzie. There was Alison Device and James Device as well.
Right.
So that's a wee meta thing like that. But yeah, for me, like, I think I said it before, but I there was a lot of funny parts with them, the conspiracy stuff, and some of the games that they were playing I found quite funny, but overall I think it was a lot of their parts were very slow, and like you said, I wanted it to be more other characters, Aziraphale and Crowley. But yeah, it was fine though. I didn't really have a big problem with it, but yeah, I think we're all mostly in agreement there. Except for Jason, he hated it. He hated them. He hates children. So then the sort of last group of characters that we have in the sort of last bit before the kind of finale is to do with the Four Horsemen. So random times throughout the book, I found this a bit jarring, but it was like completely at random times where this like delivery man, which was funny, delivery man would like go all around the world and he would like meet these weird characters and give them like a package, and it turns out that the people he's meeting is like the Four Horsemen, you know, one by one. One of them's like, I think, a war newscaster or something, and he gives her flaming sword, and he goes to meet another one who's like pollution and whatever, and they're all getting these like packages to sort of say, listen, the Armageddon's happening here. You need to get to where the Antichrist is to get the whole thing kicked off. So they start traveling the world to like get to Tadfield, and for some reason they like pick up a biker gang which sort of joins them. And they can't remember what they called themselves. They're like the other Four Horsemen or something.
Yeah.
And they give themselves stupid names, and it's quite funny. But yeah, the Four Horsemen sort of turn up. I thought that they were sort of pointless in a way, except for Death. The other three were like just sort of there, and it was like they were built up to be a bit of a threat, you know, because obviously the Four Horsemen, but they don't really do anything, I thought. But I don't know. What did you think about the Four Horsemen?
I mean, I guess
the other four.
It makes sense, like that because them other three are basically just a means to death. Like,
True.
They are just leading to death, so death is still like the main one anyway. I liked how they changed the pestilence, the pollution. Is that actual?
It was good, yeah.
That is just they did
Pestilence
that. Like
retired.
that's not like the way it is in like a modern day Bible or something like that. I guess that's what pestilence is, but I liked.
I think they say that pestilence retired because like it stopped
the
happening.
invention of penicillin.
Yeah.
Which I think is really another meta joke.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the idea that them four. I don't understand, like, well, maybe I do. Actually, I guess it's because this is the apocalypse, like, and they're in the Bible or whatever, they're supposed to appear at this time or whatever. But I like the other four. So this is one of the differences that I was disappointed the TV show didn't have. Maybe because, like you said, they were a bit pointless. They were just there as a funny thing. But
I like the other four.
Oh, I was those the main four.
Yeah, as the main four, I thought were a bit pointless. But yeah, sorry, go on.
I thought the names. I think they didn't they keep changing their names. They were like trying to, because obviously the Horsemen of the Apocalypse are named after like bad things, and I was like things that these boys hated. I think whenever these boys stop following, is like they crash and like one of them goes into like a big thing of fish or something like that. He's like changes his name to be like landing on a big pile of fish or whatever. Like, so he's just trying to like cover things that they don't like. But I thought they were quite funny. Just to have them and stealing the Four Horsemen. It's just funny the Four Horsemen just let this happen as well. Like they just kind of pay these boys no heed. Like I like the introduction to them as well. Like all meeting up in the bar, and then like Def is just like over playing some quiz game or something. I think that's how those four end up with him, because they're like sitting around watching him play the quiz.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was quite funny, this kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess we'll maybe cover more about them then later when we come back to them.
Yeah. Can you remember any of their names, the other Four Horsemen?
I remember the one about the fish. I can't remember like all the stuff that they say that they hate, but it's basically just like as they go along, they like it changes so many
embarrassing
things.
Personal problems.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Cruelty to animals. That's one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Funny stuff. Michael, what did you think?
Yeah, I enjoyed the Four Horsemen overall. I liked the delivery man going from member to member. I thought that was a good way to introduce them. It was a funny way to do that. And I did like the random tag along of the biker gang. I thought it was funny as well. I do agree with you, Stephen, where you said they ultimately didn't really feel like they had a point in the plot. I think that as like a conflict of styles in this book is I think Terry Pratchett is more of a random things just happen, and it's you're put into the world and a lot of crazy things happen, whereas Neil Gaiman very much is more of a plot driven writer. So I feel like maybe that is kind of their styles clashing there, where you feel like these guys should have a point because there is an overarching plot, but they kind of don't.
Yeah,
so I feel like
I think I've come around on that after what Johnny said about, like, you know. Yeah, it's sort of like, no, I've come around on it. I like it.
Yeah. I think I've already said I love Death from the Discworld books. I'm not 100% sure if this is supposed to be the Death. I think I did read that in another review, but please write on and correct me if I'm incorrect on that, and we will acknowledge it on the podcast. But if it is, Death is such a great character of Pratchett. He's probably my favourite character in the Discworld books. I highly recommend the book Mort if you want to know more about Death. It's where he takes on an apprentice. You can read a lot of the Discworlds out of order. I think you could read that one without having read previous ones.
I think somehow I've read part of that, you know.
Yeah. Oh, really? Mort is probably my favourite out of the ones that I read so far. But I quite enjoyed it, but I wasn't I wasn't completely positive on it, but I enjoyed the Four Horsemen overall.
And then I guess now we're sort of getting into the sort of like finale of the book, where all the characters are sort of converging on this, like I've mentioned previous, the nuclear power plant. So Adam kind of has this. He starts to get like distraught, and as I was saying, he starts saying all this mad shit, like they're gonna, you know, carve up the earth and divide it between them, and, you know, restart everything and whatever. And they start making their way to this nuclear power plant. They think they're playing a game, but he's sort of like, you know, being guided to go there to end the world, sort of thing. Obviously, the Four Horsemen and the other Four Horsemen are all going to meet up with him there. I can't remember how Aziraphale knows to go there, but he sort of tags along with Shadwell through a whole random series of events that happens. He goes through like a phone line and ends up going into the body of this medium that lives beside Shadwell and stuff, and they all sort of travel together to Tadfield really slowly on like a scooter, which is quite funny. We have the Newton, who has gone to Tadfield, and he's sort of met up with Anathema, and they had a shag, like I said before, and they end up going to the airbase, or the part. Is it an airbase or the power plant?
It's a military base.
I don't know why I thought it was a power
It's
plant.
a US military base. That's why the senator was like US, wasn't he?
That's right. Sorry, I completely misremembered that. I think there is a power plant nearby them, though, right?
There's something about a power plant in terms of like atoms kind of thing. You know, with him like setting things off and all, but like it's a military base. They go to here at the end.
Sorry, yeah. So they're all going to this military base, and Crowley also has a run-in with Haster and that other demon again, and he kills one of them with holy water, which is like a big no-no for demons, like, you know, killing their own sort of thing. So he has there's a whole chase scene with him, and he goes through the phone lines and stuff as well. But then it ends up that he has to drive his prized Bentley really quickly to get there on time, and he has to go through the M25, which I think is like basically on fire or something, or it's like really, really hot. So anything that goes there is just going to melt, and he basically on his way has to keep his prized Bentley together in order to get there to save the day, sort of thing, which I really liked, because it's sort of like, you know, he's given up his prized possession to do a good thing, which sort of shows how much he cares about the earth. Yeah, I think that's one of the symbols of the book that I was reading. Yeah. So anyway, they all sort of meet up at this airbase, and the four horsemen are they start tampering with the electric systems to, you know, obviously get some missiles madness going on. And what's her name? I keep forgetting her name. Anathema and Newton try and like sabotage the whole thing, while Adam's friends try and stop him, or, you know, stop the whole thing from going down. And Aziraphale and Crowley eventually arrive, and there's some funny scenes with the guards, but they sort of have a confrontation with the four horsemen, in particular Death and Adam. There's sort of like a confrontation there where Adam realizes, like, you know, I don't want to destroy the world, but I want to make things. He sort of like goes against the idea of like the destiny thing, and that eventually comes around to deciding, you know, they should just let the world be as it was before. And he sort of proposes that he can just decide that God's ineffable plan is that Armageddon doesn't actually happen, which is this part of the book was really weird for me. And then you have like the Metatron, which is like the voice of God, and Beelzebub, which I think is supposed to be the voice of Satan. They sort of like turn up, and they're kind of giving off to Crowley and Aziraphale for kind of going against their kind, sort of thing. And there's like a suggestion that they're going to be punished and stuff. So anyway, Adam like banishes the four horsemen and decides not to destroy the world, so the day is saved, and he kind of goes back to being a kid again. And then the book sort of ends with Crowley and Aziraphale discussing whether or not, you know, it goes back to that free will and stuff questions again. And Crowley gets his Bentley back, and Aziraphale's bookshop is back again because Adam uses his powers for good, and then sort of gives them up. And yeah, it just sort of ends after that. I think the end of the book was kind of weird for me, where it just sort of trailed off a bit. But what did you guys think?
This is where I think things did feel a bit messy for me, as everything was going together and coalescing into one. I still, at this point, struggle to care about Newton and Anathema as much as the other characters. Crowley's confrontation with the demons, I thought that was a pretty good part. You know, it was exciting, and I like what you said about that, Stephen, where it was a good him making that sacrifice for the earth. It was like this kind of fulfillment of his arc. Then we get the them being disturbed by Adam's behavior and starting to question this, and we get it goes really cosmic. It's not very grounded at all anymore, but it's a bit of like Deus Ex Machina too, I think, the way Adam bends reality. So if you're gonna do stuff like that where like you can kind of just magic the conflicts away, I think the satisfaction then has to be drawn from the character's arc. And that's where a bit of a weakness on this book hinges for me, is the fact that Adam's arc just doesn't feel that satisfying.
Yeah.
I don't believe his initial descent into evil that strongly, and I didn't believe his U-turn back that strongly. I was just kind of, okay, that's a thing that happened, I guess.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down to what Johnny was saying, where like he sort of goes into this trance. And another thing, it's like, obviously this happens over like a couple of days, or maybe it's even a week. So at the start, he's just sort of this weird kid, and then he goes into the trance,
Yeah.
and he starts talking all evil and all, and then he decides to be good at the end. It is a weird arc.
Just it didn't feel
Very
earned or something.
squished together as well. I don't know.
Yeah. And the ending, as you said, kind of fizzles. I would agree with that as well. So I thought the ending had its moment, with Crowley and everything, and I did enjoy the action of the ending. I like things getting cosmic, but I didn't find Adam's arc that believable, and I thought it was kind of hinging on that.
Johnny, anything to add?
I mean, I agree that it was a bit chaotic at the end. Like I've said, Adam's whole thing wasn't really my favourite kind of part of this book. I thought it was a bit confusing at times, and it was just like he was possessed and like wanting all these bad things to happen, and then all of a sudden he's like, actually, nah, but it was like, although it was possessed at one point or whatever, on this kind of trance, it felt like before that, when he was talking about all these conspiracies, that he did want this to happen, even just as himself. Like, when he was talking about, like, the government and all that kind of stuff, he's just like, yeah, we just need to start again. It just felt like that is what he actually believed himself. But maybe that is a thing of, like, destiny or whatever, that he was just, like, leading them this. I liked how the dog, even though his dog's, like, is bound to him or whatever, and is like also, a hellhound under the covers, it was even like not liking what Adam was becoming, and it like ran away from him. I really like that part.
Yeah.
Like the dog is actually just like nice now. I thought that was quite nice. One of the best scenes I think in the show is Crowley driving through the fire, and like just the way it's done is just brilliant. And he's just like, I think Haster is like after him. This is just Haster gets out of the phone line and like appears beside him just as he's about to, like, before he's like, while he's stuck in traffic, before he can get through this, like, the M25 that's burning, and he's just like, he drives through it and Haster like burns up and all. It's pretty cool. There's also, haven't mentioned, even the book talks about like that there's always, I think it says like classical music or something playing in Crowley's, but then it's like some classical piece by Freddie Mercury. So it's always like talking about like Queen songs. Oh, and then in the actual show, obviously, you get the Queen song, so I think the soundtrack's quite good because a lot of the Crowley bits are Queen. Yeah, I like the whole thing with the Bentley then, like burning the bits and stuff like that. And then he has to, like, I think Aziraphale wants him to, like, Crowley, they like get rid of the guard because obviously he can do some bad thing to him and get rid of him. Crowley's like, I just need a minute with my car. Just, they can and like, that's why Aziraphale has to do it. And he's like, he makes him disappear. He's like, oh jeez, I hope I haven't sent him anywhere bad. No, I think it's quite funny. There's that bit too with the old man that's like some weird old man that, like, just hates kids and all. He like doesn't like the troublemakers and all, but he like Crowley, when Crowley runs up and like his car's on fire. I love the way it goes, talks about this in the book. It's like, because obviously you get this kind of narrator going that he was thinking, it's like, maybe I should tell him that his car's on fire. It's like, nah, surely he knows that his car's on fire. I thought that was quite a funny part. Yeah, like I said, the ending did feel a bit chaotic, and I didn't really understand. Like, this maybe ties into what you said about the horsemen being kind of useless. Like, I think that them just kind of like say, I don't believe in death or pollution or whatever, and they all just like melt. I just thought it was a bit stupid. No one fought, like, which is what's stupid. I wanted more of a bit of an action maybe or whatever, and Adam just kind of like, again, just remained pure, like, dull, and like didn't really give a shit. Like, it was just like, yeah, like I don't really want Armageddon to happen, so gone away. Like, it wasn't really much of a fight or nothing. It was just him deciding that he actually, no, I don't want, even though he started it off. Like, it just felt a bit stupid. But like, yeah, it wasn't terrible or nothing. There's another bit in the show I thought was good about the punishment. Like, that they actually do punishment in the show, but Crowley and Aziraphale like switch bodies, so that I think the punishment for Crowley is like to get put in a bath of holy water, so like holy water would melt the demon, but it's actually Aziraphale, but like disguised as Crowley. So like he's like in the bath of water, and he's just like, I think they like throw like some other wee monster in there first, and it just melts the bits like instantly, and then it's like Crowley gets on, he's absolutely grand. He's just like pretend he's like, having fun in the bath or whatever, and all the demons can't believe it and stuff. And basically the same thing happens to Aziraphale, where his like burning thing happens. They up in heaven or whatever to kill you, and it's obviously because it's Crowley withstands it. I thought that was quite good that the show did, that the book didn't really go on to. But yeah, the ending of the book. I think there's because they talk about like Adam basically has like not got his powers anymore, but then there's like the very like ending scene is like he's like grounded. I thought it was quite funny about too when he's like I'm grounded and the friends are like, so what, like you can't come outside. He's like, when do you think your parents will let you out? And he's like, oh, it could be years and years and years. I don't think they'll ever. And then they're like, what about tomorrow? He's like, yeah, they'll have forgotten by tomorrow. It's like, but I think there's like the dog is like looking to get over the hedge, get out, and he's like, you can't go, dog, because if you go, then I'll have to chase you, and I'm not allowed out of the garden, but I'd have to chase you. And then like a hole appears in the hedge, and then the dog goes free, and Adam goes free as well. So obviously there's some kind of power still there, which I thought was just like a nice little, you know, he shout out to the power still being there at the end. And then doesn't he eat from the apple tree or something as well? That was it started it all.
I didn't even clock that, but I think you're right.
Yeah, so like I think there was a few satisfying things in the end, but also a few madness bits. I think there's a bit too with like Anathema, and yet Anathema gets like some new book of prophecies, and then it's like,
oh yeah, Agnes sends, because she was obviously, she had foresight, she knew they were going to get married, so she sends them another book. Yeah,
so it's like the second volume of like the prophecies, but like she's about to open it, and like Newt tells her, do you really want to like live in your life as a listening to these and knowing what's going to happen and all, or do you want to just like, you know, live your life? And I think she like burns up the book or something like that, which I thought again was a nice part. But yeah, it was just kind of a mixed bag near the end, but I still quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think at the end, I think was a bit of a mess, like Michael was saying. There is a lot of, like you were saying, a lot of nice like conclusions. I think I didn't realise about that apple thing, but I really like that. It's a nice wee, you know, full circle type thing. And then obviously Crowley and Aziraphale, they get their sort of happy ending. Newt and Anathema end up together. And my favourite part was Shadwell ending up with the what do you call her? Madame Tracy or whatever, the fortune teller.
Landlord person.
Like yeah, and then obviously, you know, the Adam gets punished and sneaks out anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of nice wee conclusions there, but it did feel very messy. But yeah, overall, I think it was good. But yeah, that sort of brings to the end of my rambling summary of the story. But yeah, we'll move on to the star rating now, I suppose. So, who wants to go first? Do you want me to do Jason's first?
Do Jason's first, sure.
Yeah, do Jason's.
So, he thought overall he was going to give it a 2 out of 5. Again, he thought the first part was really strong with the Crowley and Aziraphale and you know, lead up to, I guess, when Adam's birthday. He thought, I assume that's what he means, up to there was 5 out of 5, but then it started to fall down after that and never recovered. So yeah, he gave it a 2 out of 5. I do think there was a bit of that hitchhiker hate there going on.
Definitely.
Until he tells me otherwise, that's what I'm gonna go with. So a 2 from Jason.
Cool.
Johnny, do you want to go now?
Yeah. Like I said, I quite enjoyed this book. I thought it was the right amount of wacky. The story, yeah, at parts was a bit of a mess, and the POV was a bit jarring at times. I felt like without the show, I would not have enjoyed this as much. I think it's maybe my enjoyment does inherently come from the story itself, but I feel like the audiobook maybe isn't the best medium for it. That being said, I still did enjoy it, and like a lot of the descriptions were quite good. A lot of it was funny, and definitely like I know we haven't really talked about the narration, because like the narration was done by the cast of the show, so again it kind of felt like these two mediums are like mixing together for me. But obviously everyone's playing themselves as you would in the show, so like I thought that was obviously a great performance and stuff like that, and really added, you know, to the characters and stuff like that it was actually, you know, they felt more alive and stuff like that. And obviously, like the Aziraphale, like David Tennant's and Michael Sheen's Aziraphale and Crowley's kind of like voice acting in particular, you know, like David Tennant's quite almost like a sarcastic-y kind of thing, whereas Michael Sheen's voice was more like lighthearted and like angelic or whatever. So I thought that they were, you know, perfect. They play those roles. Yes, so I think without that, just because of the fact that like if I was giving this the show a rating out of 5, I would go 4.5. But because of the issue of not being able to understand some of it, I'll just go down to a 4 for the audiobook.
Cool, nice one. Thanks for that, Michael.
Yeah. So as I said in my initial summary of this, mixed bag for me, but overall a positive experience. I thought the intro was really, really strong. I thought the production and the performance of the full cast was really, really strong. I do think parts of it were a mess. I think we went over it just there. The ending was a bit disjointed and a bit all over the place for me. Just my experience of listening to it anyway. And there were those characters that I didn't care about as much, but the characters that I did care about in this I found really entertaining, and I really enjoyed listening to those parts. So listening to this audiobook was overall a good experience, so I could not mark this as a negative. As I said though during the review, I think I probably would have enjoyed this more reading the written version, because I think Pratchett's style lends itself better to the written format. I also think that I would probably really enjoy the show and have a similar experience to what Jonathan has, where his opinion of the story would be elevated by the fact he's watched the show and filled in some gaps. I think that would have helped me as well if I had have done that.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go as negatively as Jason, and I'm not quite as positive as Jonathan, but I'm just slightly below Jonathan on it. I would say I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Cool. I think definitely watch the show, by the way. I think it's really well done.
Yeah.
There's 2 seasons somehow. The first season is the book, and I guess the second season is the sequel, which...
It's a spin-off.
There is a sequel. Is it a spin-off?
It
There
does
is a
have
sequel
Crowley.
book, isn't there?
I think it's basically like, so there's the Angel Gabriel is played by John Hamm and is like a lot more prevalent in the show. Like I think he's only really mentioned in the book a few times. But I think it's like he loses his memory or something, and Crowley and Seraphil have to like help him, find out why or get back or whatever. So I think it's to do with that. So I think it's just like a spin-off story that and I believe there's a 3rd season, which is definitely the final one they said. But yeah, a 3rd season coming soon.
Yeah, it's really good. You mentioned John Hamm there. Like I think I have to talk about it. Do you know that scene where he's in the bookshop and he's like pretending to be human?
Yeah.
That's so funny to me. Don't want to spoil it for Michael, but it's just so funny.
I probably will watch the show, because I'm currently scraping for things to watch, so I probably will watch it.
As for me, like I pretty much agree with the majority of what everyone has sort of said. I really like the cast and the production of the book. Yeah, it definitely does. I think it is improved by this TV show, and I think it's obviously produced in that way to be a tie-in. I like the plot as well. The general idea of the story is what obviously hooked me into it to begin with, and I think it holds up as a really strong like idea for a story. Obviously there were issues with it, the kind of fizzle out, as Michael put it, of the ending, some of the POV bits, the switching, but overall I think it was a good story, and it's definitely one that I would recommend to people. But maybe I would sort of say, do what Jonathan did and watch the show alongside. In terms of a star, I think I would give it a 3.5 as well, Michael. I came into this I was going to give it a 3 flat, but what seems to be happening more and more now every episode is that my sort of enjoyment level goes up as we talk about it, which I really like still. So I'm going to go 3.5 as well. Generally good book, I think.
Yeah.
Cool. What's next? Comparison to other media. I mean, we've sort of touched on this already, like Hitchhikers, the TV show, any of Terry Pratchett's books.
Yeah, and Neil Gaiman as well.
Yeah. Anything else you just wanted to pick out?
Well, I did have like little Nicky of all things.
That is a good one,
at
though.
certain point. Yeah,
I like that.
and I know everybody hates Adam Sandler movies nowadays and all, but I because I watched them as younger years, I still have fond memories of like even movies like Little Nicky, which aren't the peak Adam Sandler, the way like Happy Gilmore is very still highly thought of.
I don't know. I think Happy Gilmore is definitely the best one. I think But Little Nicky
Yeah.
is up there too for me.
I like Little Nicky. It's completely ridiculous, but I like it.
Yeah. Little Nicky, Big Daddy, and Waterboy. And,
Yeah.
the Wedding Singer. I love Adam Sandler, man.
Yeah.
I know what you're on about.
Get in the flash.
You ever watch The Wedding Singer? That's a banger.
Yeah, I like Wedding Singer.
He's losing his mind.
Uncut Gems too, although it's not a comedy and it's more modern. I like him in that.
I haven't seen that, but Jason recommended it to me.
It's good, yeah.
That bloody...
It's very stressful.
Somehow we've got on to Adam Sandler. That bloody... there's two films where he does with... What do you bloody call her? Jennifer Aniston, where they're like a married couple, or they're pretending to be a married couple. What was that
Just
called?
go with it, is it?
No, okay, I think I'm mixing that up. It's not that one.
That's the Bounty
I
Hunter,
don't
is
know,
it?
I've never seen
That
it.
is the one where they're pretending, but there's one where it's like a murder happens, but it's like...
The Bounty Hunter.
No, it's like a murder mystery type thing. It might actually just be called Murder
Oh,
Mystery.
it is Murder Mystery.
And it was actually... me and Sarah watched that, the first one a couple of years ago, and it was actually really funny. And I think the sequel came out last year. Adam Sandler, everybody. Go watch that.
To the Adam Sandler podcast.
Yeah. Trivia. Does anybody have any trivia? I'm sure we do. I didn't go looking for any, but
I think I dispensed a decent amount during it, but I'll add also that one thing I was curious about going into this book was how this collaboration worked.
yeah.
I read onto it there, but so Neil Gaiman, after he wrote that Douglas Adams biography, he was very inspired to do his own novel, get into novel writing. So he had an idea, and I think he was already good friends with Terry Pratchett, so he sent it over to Terry Pratchett. And the way that I came to understand it from what I read, Terry Pratchett kind of did most of the work from that point. The way Neil Gaiman described it, he said 40% him, 60% Pratchett. But the way Pratchett described it was that he did just over 2/3, which would put it closer to 67, 68, whatever percent. And I did get that feeling, being a fan of both those offers. I do feel it's more of a Pratchett book than a Gaiman book.
I can't remember if this is for this book, but I think it is, where like when they had written the book, they went to some like convention or book signing thing, and like nobody turned up.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
That-
quite funny.
Neil Gaiman actually told that story on Twitter when a woman had published her book and nobody or very few people showed up for her signing, and she said how she was very embarrassed. And then Neil Gaiman tweeted about that, saying that nobody showed up for that signing for Good Omens, which is crazy now to think about it, how big, well, obviously Terry Pratchett is no longer with us, but how big Neil Gaiman is and how big Terry Pratchett was.
Yeah, I think I think I heard a story too, or read somewhere that like people obviously love this book, right? And they've had copies for decades, but they would go to like signings and stuff, and he'd get like Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett, they get presented with this like horrible, disgusting copy of a book that's just been through the wars because it's been read so many times.
Yeah.
I like that idea that it's so beloved that people have these bargain copies.
Another bit of trivia too, that I think they were at one stage thinking about a sequel, but it never came to fruition for whatever reason. And obviously now that Terry Pratchett is gone, you know, that I don't know if Neil Gaiman would ever feel right about doing it on his own. But yeah, they did actually they were thinking about it at one stage.
Yeah, I must be misremembering this again. I thought there was a sequel. Was this something? No, do you know what? I'm mixing this up with To Kill a Mockingbird. We're like,
All right.
yeah, I'm conflating things again. Ignore that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess what else are we consuming? For me, let me think. So loads of Adam Sandler movies. No. I just finished, I'm on the last book of the audiobook of Yahtzee Crowshaw's Jacques McKeown series that Michael recommended to me. We'll Save the Galaxy for Food. The final book's called We'll Leave the Galaxy for Good. And I think that actually has a lot of... There's a few comparisons to this book that you can make with that one. Again, I think they're both sort of inspired by Hitchhikers, so maybe that's why. But like stuff like the names and stuff and things, there's a lot of like humour that's kind of the same. Would definitely recommend it, and Michael, thanks for recommending the series to me because I loved it.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Finished. Well, I'm up to date with House of the Dragon. There's currently like 5 episodes out, I think. But yeah, I'm loving that. There's nothing else really, just normal random stuff like the odd Peep Show episode or whatever. Really boring. Nothing going on. Johnny, what are you consuming? Laundromat game?
Laundromat game. There's a new game I was telling these guys about. What's it called? Arcade Zone. Do you remember what I told you it was called?
No.
Well, it's on Epic Games at the minute for free. Let me see.
Hold on. It's called Arcade Paradise.
Arcade Paradise. That's free anyway. At the time of recording, probably not by the time you hear this. But yeah, it's basically like you start like a laundromat, your dad's like business, and you want to turn it into an arcade. So like you have to basically like make money doing the laundry first, and then you slowly build up like an arcade of different like games, and you can actually play the games as well on the arcade machines, which is quite good.
Yeah, it's a really nice touch.
Yeah, so it's basically like you've got games within the game. But no, it's quite an interesting game. But otherwise, yeah, I was watching the show for this. It's mainly been my show focus. I'll possibly get to the second season at some stage, but I might go watch something else in the meantime and then come back to it just to take a break from it. There's only 6 episodes in the season of Good Omens, so it wasn't too hard to watch. Anyway, I actually did it last week, more or less. Been reading listening to another audiobook. So I've never listened to any Agatha Christie, so I decided to pick up the very first book, which is The Mysterious Affair at Styles. That's where Hercule Poirot, the famous character, famous detective, is introduced as well. It's actually quite good. Very easy listening. I wouldn't be a big fan of these kind of like, it's basically a murder mystery kind of detective book. I wouldn't really be a big fan of those normally, but no, I find it quite interesting. It's kind of making me want to listen to a bit of Sherlock Holmes, the big 72-hour collection of them. I've got that somewhere. I'm thinking about at least starting that and like making a dent in the first. I get split up on the different stories and that, so I'm making a dent in the first few. But yeah, I listened to that. Yeah, I haven't really been doing much else. Been finished the Gen V, I think, where I was watching last time, and I've been almost, I think the boys just finished their last episode. I think I've still 3 more to go, so I'll probably finish the boys, and then I'm not sure what they watch next, to be honest. I rewatched the first season of Breaking Bad a few months ago, so I might go on to the second season just to continue on with that in the meantime. But yeah, I think that's everything from me.
Cool. Michael, you consume a lot, I hear.
Have I?
You told me last time we were chatting that you've been watching all over TV.
Oh well, I've been watching Invincible again. I watched the first season of that and fell off it, and now I'm back watching it and quite enjoying it. It's a superhero show, but it actually reminds me a bit of Dragon Ball Z, more than a superhero setup for some reason that I can't quite put my finger on. It's not as good as Dragon Ball Z, I just want to say, but it's quite enjoyable. Watching The Boys as well, I'm enjoying that as well. It's very, very outrageous, and this season, I didn't enjoy season 3 that much, and I think season 4 has been a lot better than season 3, even though it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way because there is like a lot of very on the nose social commentary going on about, especially like the American right is being poked fun at a lot, which obviously isn't sitting well with a lot of people, but I think it's quite funny. Watching House of Dragon as well with Greta, but I'm not caught up because Greta hasn't seen it before, so I had to go back to the start and start watching through it.
That held us up as well. We'd seen it before, but we wanted to watch it again. So.
Yeah, I mind you saying that when we were out. I went to the cinema for the first time in a long, long time. I went to see a movie I think you said you saw, Stephen. You said on the last episode, Inside Out 2.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah. So it was... Yeah, we wanted to test my son Jonah, he's 3 years old now. And the cinema, the last time we took him, he was 2 and he didn't settle. We took him this time and he was very content and happy with his popcorn and everything. So sat through the whole movie and didn't say much. So it was a good victory, and I'm hoping now that this is the beginning that I can take him to see more movies.
Did he start getting edgy towards the end, where he like fidgety, where he wanted to stand up and stuff, or was that just my daughter?
I was expecting that, but he actually didn't. But I think it's because we bought a huge bucket of popcorn and had like paced it through the movie for that intention.
See, you're smarter than I am. I see.
It's because it's just we had learned from our past failure where we had everything eaten very early, and then he started to get agitated.
Yeah.
In the previous movie we tried to watch. I've been reading 2 physical books. I read It by Stephen King and Carrie by Stephen King. I forgot how good of a book it is. It's just incredible, and obviously Stranger Things lifts heavily from this book, but if you like Stranger Things and have never read it, you definitely should check that book out because they're very similar. I think you spoke before, Stephen, you mentioned that scene that everybody on the internet loves to talk about.
It's a good scene, isn't it?
The last 10% of it is absolutely batshit insane. I'm not gonna lie, it is absolutely batshit. But the first 90% is really, really great. Also, we went out to watch the Euros together. Stephen were watching that, and Spain obviously won the Euros. Stephen won some money off of that because
£100. It was great.
Yeah, they were your team in the sweepstakes, so that was a good result for you. I had Netherlands who got put out in the semi-finals, and 2 different sweepstakes. I had them. I've also been doing a lot of running. I've been back out running again. I signed up for the half marathon in September, so I have to try and get fit again for that because I was not very fit, and I'm trying to get back in shape a bit. Last week I did 34 kilometers altogether, so
wow.
I'm building it up slowly. That was across 5 runs, so it was roughly running about 6 to 7 kilometers on each run, with two rest days where I try to do nothing. But I'll be slowly ramping that up and trying to get to about, I wanted to get to like a 16 kilometer run before the half marathon, because a half marathon is 21 kilometers, so then on the day itself I only have to push myself that extra 5 kilometers.
Man, I don't even think I could do one, to be honest with you.
It takes a while, yeah, to build up. Once you get to about 5k, you're adding stuff on from 5k is a lot easier than getting to 5k.
Yeah, I would imagine.
You know,
I just don't have the motivation at all. I just
yeah.
Are you going to climb Marigold again with Lee?
I don't know. I've climbed it twice now, so I don't know.
That first time it killed me. That was bad done, but still.
Yeah, I wanna do a marathon, so I'm gonna keep training and do that, because I've already run 2 half marathons. That's the furthest that I've ever run in one go. So I would like to get fit enough to run a marathon, but I don't actually know where one is being held or when one is being held, so I'll have to keep my eye out for that.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna continue training and getting fitter.
There's one in Belfast, so there does every year.
Is there? I might try and do the Belfast one then, if it's still taking people.
Oh, well, it just happened a few months ago, so you'll have to do it for next year.
Oh, right. I was going to say, if it's coming up soon, then it would be a no, because I wouldn't be fit enough in time. It would need to be something like in March time, I'm kind of thinking of. March, April of next year, you know?
Yeah, I think it was in April, May, so yeah, that probably would be a good time for you.
So yeah, I'll probably do the next one, hopefully. And then, of course, we're just all prepping for Jason's wedding, which is why he isn't here today on the show, because he's got a lot of stuff to arrange, and we're going over there. Everybody's attending and everything, so I'm looking forward to going over and seeing everybody. By the time this episode drops, you know, he'll already have been married, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
And we'll all be like having our days of hangovers, or I will anyway. I'll be like, when I suppose I'll be on what, like if this goes out, say the first, I'll be on like fourth day of my hangover.
4th day of hangover.
Can't wait for that. So yeah, Jason, what he's consuming is loads of wedding stuff. I think he's currently writing a speech, so that's fun.
Jonathan, who is his best man, has also had to do that.
I'm still working on mine. It's more or less done. About 6, I think, 5 minutes allocated time, and I think I've got about 600 words, so about 800 would be pushing the 5-minute mark. So yeah, I've only got a wee bit left to do.
Nice.
I think mine for Gollies was about 700 words, and everybody told me mine seemed long. So
I think yours was the perfect length, to be honest with you. But
yeah, I thought yours was quite a good length. So
yeah, Mine's was 700 words anyway, and everybody was very complimentary, obviously, about mine as well. But yeah, some people were like, "It was great, but it was also long." I was like, "When the fuck is this guy gonna shut up?"
Anything more than a minute is people consider long. So
I'm pretty sure I told you about Niall's wedding, right?
He does.
That was
Yeah,
the funniest thing. So our friend Niall, his like partner's father went on for like 40 minutes,
that's the worst.
and he just wouldn't.
that's
He just
way too long.
wouldn't stop talking, and he was like, "I think at the start he said I'll make this brief." Or something.
Yeah.
The best man kind of came on after him and said like, yeah, "Thanks for making that brief. I'll cut mine down a pile here now, sure, because I reckon getting my time." It was so funny. And then Niall was telling me he got his wedding video back, and like half of it is just the father-in-law speech.
Jesus Christ.
Hilarious. So yeah, that's for what we're consuming. Plugs? Anybody got any plugs?
I'm still working on stuff in the background, like for my like. I feel bad because I look on our stats and I see people are still downloading like my short story podcast, The Dark Tales, and it's sitting inert at the minute. But it's not because I've like abandoned ship or anything. It's because I'm focused more on writing at the minute. But I've been reading like actually when I read it, I was reading it aloud to practice reading stories aloud because I want to get better at that. And I'm still writing stuff away, and I've got a whole book that I don't know what to do with that, but I'll find something to do with that. And then I've got like 4 other short stories in the bank, and I'm gonna add to them as well. But yeah, I think slowly start releasing stuff again when I've got stuff written up. The way I'm thinking of it in my head now is that I'm on a season break and I'm just like gathering all the materials and stuff. Another thing I wanted to plug again, just to go over again, if anybody wants to write onto the show any corrections on anything incorrect we've said, or if you want to tell us how wrong we are about any of our opinions, or
we just want to say anything,
yeah, if you want to just say hello or give us a book recommendation or something, our email address is in the description, the audiobook club podcast @gmail.com. Do you have anything you want to plug, Jonathan?
No, I mean the usual YouTube channel. I still haven't done much on it. I'm actually working in work at the minute. I'm writing some technical blogs, though I haven't actually published anything yet, but I'll be publishing some work, that will be out there in the open, so I'll maybe plug that in the next episode.
That'd be nice.
Alright. Cool. Well, if there's nothing else
So
going
you done
on
then, Stephen? Do you want to pass it over?
I didn't know I was muted there. leave it on. Yeah, so if there's nothing else, we'll move on to the next pick. Johnny, over to you.
So, as I've said, whenever I usually pick something I haven't done and then something I have done before, and just rotate like that. So my last pick was The Hobbit, which was something that I have done. So this one is something that I haven't read, but I am familiar with the story because I've played the game and watched the TV show, and you might be as well. So this book is chronologically, I believe it happens first, although it was not written first in the series. But whenever I looked online to see which one was the best to start with, it said this, simply because it sets up a lot that the actual books go into, which the other books that go into that they don't actually cover. And that is The Last Wish, which is the first chronologically in the Witcher series.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this book apparently is like a load of smaller, shorter stories. So it's a collection of stories, but it like explains like, so when I'm familiar with The Witcher, like he has like a silver sword for killing monsters and like a normal sword, and it explains like that and stuff like that. So it's more like to kind of like explain the characters. So anyone that's actually like watched the TV show, this is what the TV show covers at the minute anyway. So like the introduction of like Yennefer and stuff like that. So I believe this is all covered in here, and then cover the actual what's deemed the main series in the future. But yeah, that's The Last Witch, which is by Andrzej Sapkowski. Hope I'm saying that right. It's a Polish writer, and the actual
that's right,
the version is read by Peter Kenny. So it's about 10 hours at normal speed. And yeah, I like I said, I played The Witcher 3, one of my favorite games ever, and I've watched the show. I've watched the first 2 seasons, quite enjoyed them. So just looking to actually, read the books.
Yeah, I've done the first 4 books of the series. Not this one, but the
main series.
The first one that was the chronological release.
Yeah.
No, the first one that came out. I've done the first 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
I think I've read the first book just from that. I can't remember which one I read, but I think it was the first one, from the main series.
Blood of Elves.
I think it might have been. Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this book. I listened to like another book podcast, and they were like, okay, our next book is, and then they just said the book, and I was like, where's the showmanship? When we announce our book, it needs a big backstory, and it's like this is the biggest deal ever.
It's gonna be the big one. All right, do you want to give us that again, real quick? And
yes, that is The Last Witch. I keep saying The Last Witch. Hey, God's sake, it's because it's The Witcher. So that is The Last Wish by Andrei Sapkowski, and that is read by Peter Kenny.
Cool. All right. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
See you on the flop.
See you on the flippity flop or whatever.
I'll leave that to you guys. This that's my gift. That's my wedding gift to you guys.
You just feel you being like, am I a joke to you?
So yeah.